Alright guys, here are the problems that I promised you. Let's take a look at the first one. It has a fraction over fraction, so we're not going to worry about the denominator for now. Let's just clean up the top. So I'm going to get a common denominator, and the common denominator is 2 times the square root of x plus 1. And if I multiply the top and bottom by the square root of x plus 1, the square root of x plus 1 times the square root of x plus 1 is just x plus 1. I know it's tempting to cross off the 2's, but remember we need a common denominator, so don't cross them off yet. I'm going to distribute that 2 in the first part to the x plus 1, and I'm going to combine like terms. Notice that now my denominator, I put it over 1 because any number can be put over 1, and this makes it easier when I flip. I have a fraction divided by a fraction. I'm going to flip the second part and multiply. Before I multiply though, if you notice that the square root of x plus 1 in the first term is the same thing as x plus 1 to the 1/2 power. Now look at the denominators in both parts. I have x plus 1 to the 1/2 power and x plus 1 to the first power. If I have the same base, I'm going to add my exponents, and I have x plus 2 on top and 2 times the quantity x plus 1 to the 3/2 on the bottom. Next problem. Looks challenging just as well. First step I see is that in the second set of parentheses, the 2's can be canceled, so that makes it just a little bit easier. The first set of parentheses is fine. The second set, I have 2 terms in it, so I'm going to change that 1 to the square root of x squared plus 1 over the square root of x squared plus 1. And then in the second set of parentheses, again, I'm just going to combine like terms. All right, we're running out of room, so, oh no, we're not. Take a look. X plus the square root of x squared plus 1, top and bottom are exactly the same. I'm going to cancel them out, and I'm left with 1 over the square root of x squared plus 1. That was actually a little bit easier than I thought. Take a look at the next problem, because the second half of the next problem is the answer is of this. So right here, the second part was actually the problem I just went over. So we're going to replace that right away with the answer. If you're not sure of how we got that answer, go through the second problem again. All right, in the first set of parentheses, I cannot cancel the x and the x squared down below because the x is not a factor. The 2's cancel, and I can also distribute that x to the first set of parentheses. So be careful with that. That's a common mistake students make. I'm going to get a common denominator of the first term. Well, let me rewrite that. Common denominator of the first term right there. Remember, the square root of x squared plus 1 times the square root of x squared plus 1 is just x squared plus 1. I have a common denominator now for that first term. I'm going to combine on top. So now before I add, notice that the first term is a fraction over a fraction. So put that over 1, the bottom, and then I'm going to flip and multiply. We're almost there. Notice that we still need an x squared in the second term, so I'm going to multiply top and bottom by x squared. Now I have common denominator. All I need to do is add them. Again, you can see that on top, the 1 plus x squared, and the bottom, the square root of x squared plus 1, those are same bases. Remember, 1 plus x squared is to the first power, the x squared plus 1 is to the 1/2 power. When you're dividing and you have the same base, you're going to subtract your exponents. So my final answer is 1 plus x squared to the 1/2 power, or the square root of 1 plus x squared all over x squared. Phew! All right, briefly, let's go over rationalizing denominators and numerators. The first step you do, let's do 3 over the square root of 12, is to simplify the square root of 12. Square root of 12 is the same thing as the square root of 4 times 3, which is 2 square root of 3. The 2 is fine. The square root of 3 is what I'm trying to get rid of. Multiply top and bottom by the square root of 3. I'll have 3 times the square root of 3 over 2 times 3. The 3's can cancel, and I'm left with the square root of 3 over 2. The second one, to rationalize the denominator, I have to multiply top and bottom by the square root of 5 minus the square root of 2, top and bottom. So in order to multiply this, the denominators, you're going to FOIL. Foiling, practice that, will get you the square root of 5 minus the square root of 2 over 5 minus 2, and just simplify it as much as you can. The square root of 5 minus the square root of 2 over 3. Couple more. In order to rationalize the denominator here, I'm going to multiply top and bottom by the square root of x plus the square root of x plus 1. Again, you're going to have to FOIL the denominator. It's not as hard as you think. You'll get the square root of x plus the square root of x plus 1 all over x minus x plus 1. I'm keeping the second part in parentheses so that you remember to distribute that negative sign. Simplify it and you're done. You can leave that negative 1 there if you want, or you can divide each term by negative 1 and simplify it a little bit further, which looks nicer too, doesn't it?